I never imagined my mother-in-law, the woman I trusted, could orchestrate such a devastating betrayal. When I uncovered her secret dealings, manipulating finances, and turning my own wife against me, I realized how deep the deception ran. This wasn't just about money, it was about control, manipulation, and revenge. What happened next shattered everything I thought I knew about family. My name's Mark, I'm 42, living in the suburbs of Chicago. For most of my life, I thought my biggest battles were at work, corporate meetings, budget cuts, deadlines that never seemed to end. But nothing prepared me for the war brewing inside my own home. It was late October, around 9 p.m. I was sitting in my living room, the dim glow of a street lamp filtering through the curtains, when my phone buzzed. It was a message from my wife, Rachel. Normally, texts at this hour meant something urgent, but this one wasn't just unusual, it was chilling. "Mark, we need to talk. It's about Mom." That was her mother, Aileen. A woman who, on the surface, seemed like the perfect mother-in-law, always smiling, always polite. But beneath that polished exterior, I'd started sensing something off. Ever since we bought our house last year, Evelyn had been unusually involved in our finances and decisions. I rubbed my temples, already tired from a 12-hour day at the advertising agency downtown. I called Rachel immediately. "Talk to me," I said, trying to keep calm. Her voice cracked. "It's worse than I thought. Mom's been moving money from our joint accounts, hundreds of thousands, and I found emails about selling the house behind your back." My heart dropped. I blinked hard. "That's impossible. Why would she do that?" "I don't know, but I need you home, now." The tension in her voice was thick, and suddenly the safe world I'd built with Rachel felt like it was crumbling. When I walked through the door, Rachel was sitting at the kitchen table, eyes red from crying, laptop open. On the screen, bank statements, emails from a real estate agent signed, dated, and official. "Look at this, Mark," she said quietly. "She's been siphoning money from our accounts for months." I felt numb. Evelyn had keys to the house, yes, but I never thought she'd betray us like this. Suddenly, the calm October night outside felt like a warning. This was just the beginning. And then, as if the storm wasn't big enough, Rachel dropped a bombshell. "There's something else, something about your past, your family." I froze. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "Mom found out some things about your childhood, the things you never told me." I swallowed hard. Whatever secrets Evelyn had dug up, I had no idea how they'd fit into this nightmare. But one thing was clear. My life, my marriage, everything was about to change. And in that moment, I knew the fight wasn't just against a greedy mother-in-law. It was something far deeper, more personal. Something I wasn't ready for. The next morning, I woke up to the cold, grey light of a Chicago drizzle tapping against the window. My mind was still tangled in last night's revelations. Rachel was already gone, probably meeting with her lawyer, but I couldn't just sit and wait. I had to figure out what Evelyn was really up to. I drove to Evelyn's apartment on the north side, a cramped but tidy place that always smelled faintly of jasmine and old books. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but something told me the answers were hidden in the mess of her neat little world. Her door was slightly ajar. That alone made my stomach knot. "Mom," I called cautiously. No answer. I stepped inside, the creak of the wind floor alive in the silence. I noticed her purse on the table, key scattered next to it, and then, on the desk, an envelope addressed to me. My name was written in Evelyn's careful, looping handwriting. I ripped it open. Inside, a thick stack of papers, bank transfers, contracts, a printed email chain between Evelyn and a man named Gerald, some shady real estate broker. The money had been moved through a series of complicated transactions, and the final one was meant to fund a property sale for a house I didn't even know Evelyn had been trying to sell. I sat down hard, my head spinning. But before I could process more, my phone rang. It was Rachel. "Mark, come home now. I need to tell you something." When I got back, Rachel was pacing in the living room, pale but determined. "Look," she started, "I found out why Mom's been doing this. It's not just about the money. She's been trying to break us apart, and she's been telling me things about your family. Things you never told me." "What kind of things?" I asked, bracing myself. "She says your dad wasn't who you thought he was, that your real father might be someone else, and that you were adopted." She showed me papers. The world tilted. "I don't believe that," I said, but inside, a small, terrified voice whispered otherwise. Rachel held out a manila folder. Inside were adoption papers, dated back to my childhood, but they weren't mine, they were my mother's. She lied. "It's not you, Mark. It's your mother. Evelyn manipulated me, planted doubts, trying to poison our relationship." Anger flared in me, hot and unforgiving. "I need to confront her." Rachel nodded. "Be careful. This is bigger than we thought." That afternoon, I called Evelyn. Her voice was calm, almost too calm. "Mark, dear, let's meet. There's a lot you don't understand." I agreed, knowing this was going to be a showdown. And when I met her, the look in her eyes was colder than Chicago's autumn wind. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said. "But your family, your past holds secrets that need to come out, whether you like it or not." Suddenly, I wasn't sure who the enemy was anymore. Because beneath her calm, I sensed a plan that would shake everything I thought was true about my life. The cafe where Evelyn wanted to meet was this old, wood-panelled place in Lincoln Park quiet, with jazz playing softly in the background and the smell of fresh espresso lingering in the air. I arrived early, my hands clenched into fists under the table. Rachel stayed home, too shaken to come. This was my fight now. Evelyn slid into the seat across from me, her expression unreadable. She looked older than I remembered, lines deeper, eyes sharper. The same eyes that had smiled so sweetly at every family dinner, but now felt like daggers. "Mark," she began, voice low, "you've lived your whole life believing one story, but families are complicated. I just want the truth out." I leaned forward. "Start talking." She sighed, glancing around like she expected spies. "Your father wasn't exactly the man you thought. He had a secret, one he kept hidden from you, from your mother, even from himself. There was another woman." My pulse quickened. "What does that have to do with me?" She hesitated, then pushed a thin envelope across the table. "This letter was hidden in his things after he died. It mentions a son, your half-brother, Adam." My breath caught. I'd never heard of Adam. How could no one ever mention him? I whispered. "That's the thing," Evelyn said, voice dropping to a whisper. "He was disowned. Your father kept it all secret to protect your mother and you, but your stepfather, Leonard, hated this secret. He knew about Adam and wanted to erase him from the family. Leonard was Rachel's father, sweet on the surface, but with a controlling streak I'd always resented. So, what does this have to do with money, with the house?" I asked, my mind racing. Evelyn leaned closer, eyes piercing. "The house you're trying to sell, it belongs to Adam. Your father left it to him, not you." The room spun. I was speechless. All my life, I'd believed that house was mine, my inheritance, my security. But apparently, I was just living on borrowed time. "You've been trying to sell his property, using Rachel as a pawn to get me out of the way," I accused. Her lips twitched into a sad smile. "I was trying to protect you from Leonard. He's the one who started this financial chaos. He's been draining your accounts secretly to pay off his own debts." A bitter laugh escaped me. "My own father-in-law? Why? What does he get out of this?" Evelyn's eyes darkened. "Control, Mark, power. Leonard wants the family fortune for himself, and he's playing all sides." The weight of the betrayal hit me hard. My wife's family was a battlefield, and I was caught in the crossfire. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Mark, we found something else. Leonard's been hiding a secret that could destroy him." I looked back at Evelyn. "What are you hiding, Mom?" Her face hardened. "More than you're ready for." The pieces were falling into place, but the full picture was darker than I could imagine. That night, I barely slept. My mind was racing with Evelyn's words and Rachel's message about Leonard's secret. The idea that my wife's father was behind the financial attacks, manipulating all of us like chess pieces, it was maddening. But what secret could be worse than that? Early the next morning, Rachel called me. "Mark, you need to come over, now." Her voice was trembling, panicked. When I arrived at her apartment, she was sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers and a battered old photo album. She looked like she hadn't eaten or slept in days. "What did you find?" I asked, pulling out a chair. She swallowed hard. "It's Leonard, not just the money. He's been hiding his identity. He's not who he says he is." "What do you mean?" Rachel opened an envelope and slid a faded birth certificate across the table. The name on it wasn't Leonard's. It was someone else entirely. And the date of birth was different by nearly 10 years. I dug into his background. Rachel explained. "His real name is Charles Whitman. He changed it after a scandal involving embezzlement and fraud in another state. He fled a married mom to cover it all up." I blinked. The man I'd barely tolerated but respected as part of Rachel's family was a fugitive hiding behind a lie. So all these years, he's been running from the law, and he's the one draining our accounts. I shook my head in disbelief. Rachel nodded. "And there's more. I found letters from a woman in Kansas. She claims Leonard, or Charles, abandoned her and their child years ago. That child might be Adam." A cold shiver ran down my spine. If true, it meant Leonard wasn't just after money. He was trying to erase his past, including a son who had every right to the family inheritance. We looked at each other, the gravity of the situation sinking in. Just then, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Evelyn. "Meet me at the old family estate. I have something you need to see." The family estate was an abandoned mansion outside the city, left to ruin, but full of memories and secrets. I hesitated. Could I trust Evelyn after everything? But I knew one thing. I had to see what she wanted to show me. Because the truth was finally breaking through the lies. I grabbed my coat and headed out into the cold night, unaware that what awaited me there would change everything once more. The old family estate was a crumbling relic on the outskirts of Oak Park, surrounded by rusty gates and overgrown weeds. I hadn't been there since I was a kid, when my dad still took me to visit. Now it looked like a ghost from the past, a place best left forgotten. Evelyn was waiting outside, her face lit by the flickering porch light. She looked tired, but resolute. "Mark," she said quietly, "come with me." Inside, the house smelled of dust and decay, mixed with faint traces of lavender, the scent Evelyn always wore. She led me upstairs to a locked drawer in the study desk. Pulling out a heavy key from her necklace, she opened it. Inside was a worn leather journal and a stack of old letters tied with a faded ribbon. "These are your father's," she said. "He kept them hidden, but they tell the real story." I sat down, hands trembling, and began reading. The journal revealed that my father, Thomas, had discovered Leonard's past long before he died. He tried to expose Leonard, but Leonard threatened to ruin us all. Thomas's last entry hinted at a secret meeting and a warning to protect the family estate at all costs. Then, as I sifted through the letters, I found a torn photograph, half of a family portrait, showing a man who looked exactly like Leonard standing beside a woman and a young boy. A boy I'd never seen before. Evelyn's voice broke the silence. "That boy is Adam, Leonard's son, your half-brother, and he's the rightful heir." I felt like the floor had dropped beneath me. "How did you keep this from me?" I asked, fury boiling under my skin. "I was trying to protect you from Leonard's wrath," she said. "But now it's out in the open. He's coming for the estate. He wants to erase Adam completely." Just then, the sound of tires crunching gravel outside made us both jump. "Leonard's here," Evelyn whispered. I peeked through the window to see his black SUV parked out front. My heart pounded. Leonard stormed in, face twisted in anger. "You're meddling where you shouldn't," he snarled. "This family belongs to me." "Not anymore," I shot back. The room froze. The battle for the truth and the family fortune had turned into a dangerous showdown. Leonard's glare was icy as he stepped closer, forced low but menacing. "You don't know what you're playing with, Mark. I built this family's wealth, and I'll destroy anyone who threatens it." I stood my ground, hands clenched, heart hammering like a drum. "You built nothing. You stole, lied, and ran from your past. It's over." Evelyn stepped forward, surprising me. "Leonard, you've lost control. We know about Adam. We know about everything." His face twisted into a sneer. "You think that boy deserves anything? He's a nobody, a mistake I erased." Rachel's voice echoed from the doorway. "You're wrong. Adam is part of this family, and we're going to make sure he gets what's rightfully his." Leonard's eyes locked on mine. "You and your wife have no idea what I'm capable of. I'm going to ruin you." Attention was suffocating, but then Evelyn pulled out a folder. "This," she said, slamming it on the desk, "is proof Leonard has been laundering money through offshore accounts, millions. I've already sent this to the authorities." Leonard's expression faltered, then hardened. "You think that'll stop me?" Before he could react, my phone rang. It was the police. "Leonard Whitman, we're coming to arrest you on charges of fraud and money laundering. We have a warrant." His face went pale. He backed toward the door, fury turning to desperation. "You haven't heard the last of me," he spat, then fled into the night. The room exhaled, the tension breaking like a dam. Rachel hugged me tightly. "We're safe for now." But I knew this wasn't the end. Leonard's betrayal had shaken the very foundation of our family. As I looked around the dusty room, I realized one thing: the battle for our family's future was just beginning. Days later, the house felt strangely quiet. Leonard was behind bars, but the damage he'd done lingered like a shadow over every corner. Rachel and I sat together in the living room, the weight of everything finally settling. Then, Evelyn called. "Mark, there's one last thing you need to know." We met again at the estate, where autumn leaves swirled around us like memories we couldn't shake. She handed me an old envelope, worn and fragile. Inside was a letter from my father. He'd left it for me, hidden away. In it, he confessed that the real reason he'd kept Leonard at arm's length was because Leonard had tried to manipulate him years ago, threatening to take everything, including me and my mother. But there was more, a secret clause in his will. The estate wasn't just for Adam or me. It was meant to be shared, to bring the fractured family together. Tears stung my eyes. For years, I'd fought shadows and lies, only to realize the true legacy my father wanted was unity. Rachel squeezed my hand. "We have a chance to rebuild." I looked up at Evelyn, who smiled softly. "Justice isn't always about revenge, Mark. Sometimes it's about forgiveness." In that moment, I felt something shift a deep, aching hope. Because sometimes, the most shocking revelations lead not to destruction, but to the chance for a new beginning. And this time, I wasn't going to let anything tear us apart again.